Having spent decades as an in-home salesman, I will tell you that the virtual appointment blows it away. It just blows it away in every aspect.
Welcome to our newest episode of Stockton Delivered with your host, Todd London, and myself, Micheal Goodman. Today we have a great guest, a contractor from New Jersey, Mike Damora of K&B Remodeling.
Yeah, I'm excited for today. A couple of reasons. First, I think we're going to learn a little bit about what makes just contractors tick in general. And then second of all, Mike's got a really cool story. He's developed some very, very cool technology that I think will help most contractors. So my hope for today is, one, we learn a little bit about what makes a contractor tick. Two, we hear a little bit about this technology. And then lastly, my hope is that if you're a manufacturer or you're a dealer's rep, you can, these are guys that are calling on this type of guy all the time. They figure out really kind of how to penetrate this guy's business.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot about those. I'm very excited. And here we go. Another episode with Mike. Welcome, Mike, to Stockton Delivered. Glad to have you here today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Anytime. Before we get into all of our questions, would give you opportunity to tell us a little about yourself, tell us a little about your company.
Well, I've been in the remodeling industry since the early 80s. I've seen a lot of change over the years. I've always focused on remodeling as opposed to new construction, new builds. So it's always been, first started off with windows, then windows became windows and doors, and then all of a sudden siding, and then before you know it, it's the whole gamut. So my background has always been with exterior remodeling, windows, doors, roofing, siding, decking, porticos, things like that. I have luckily been involved with the technology side of the business, helping contractors to better understand and utilize the benefits of optimizing their business through computerization, as opposed to, the old style method of just, kind of banging it out. So, I'm a very big advocate for the use of technology in our industry. Unfortunately, the remodeling industry seems to always be a little bit lagging distribution as well, from the technology standpoint. So making those types of people and organizations more aware of it is always something that I always advocate and always try to do.
So, Mike, you've been doing this for a long time, and clearly your business has changed quite a bit. Do you want to talk a little bit, just for listeners out there, to kind of understand what have been the biggest changes to the contracting business over the last, call it, decade, and what should contractors be thinking about if they're trying to stay out, kind of competitive in today's environment?
Whoa, that's a big question. So in the 10 years, I'm really seeing, I'm going to go back to technology, right? But technology goes hand in hand to help you understand the things that are happening, right? There's changes in the marketplace. There's no question about it. But now we have this delivery system of information. I mean, not just for the remodeling, but for everything, right? We have a delivery system of information that has never happened before in history. I mean, the world pretty much is at our fingertips. I sometimes am amazed by that when you consider how much information and how much technology we have literally in the palm of our hand. Only 50 years ago, we went to the moon, and the computer they used to do that paled in comparison to what a phone can do, right? Plus, it takes pictures, right? Mm-hmm. So this enables somebody to seek trends and find that data rather quickly. And the data that I've seen is, people, I think COVID had a big part of this. People shifting more towards outdoor type activities, outdoor improvements. I mean, look what happened to the remodeling industry during the 4 years of COVID. When COVID first hit, we were all in a panic. We were like, oh, how are we going to do this? How are we going to survive? And, it wasn't too long into the pandemic where we were like, holy cow, this is amazing. we were just, people were stuck home and they were like, well, I guess we're not going to France this year, honey. But better let's get some new siding on the house, or let's get a pool. I mean, everybody, landscaping, decking, anything with home improvement. If you didn't make money during COVID, you don't belong in the business.
So, Mike's business has converted almost 100% to transitioning what has traditionally been known as the in-home sit to really more of a virtual sit. Mike, can you talk a little bit about the advantages? I know a lot of our contractors that we work with are kind of scared to make the leap that a company like yours made. Can you talk about what you found? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages and everything in between?
Here's the benefit to that. Number one, you're not burning gas going back and forth to people's houses. That's just like right off the bat. Number two, having spent decades as an in-home salesman, I will tell you that the virtual appointment blows it away. It just blows it away in every aspect. One, attention span. You're in a home, you're with people, and you have a presentation book in front of you, and it's page one and page two. And by page three, the people are falling asleep. Their eyes are rolling back. If you think about what the consumer wants, right? They don't want one much. They want to know, one, you're a reliable contractor. They're going to vet that 90% of the time before they even meet you, right? So number two, they want to know that you know what you're doing, right? You're a reputable contractor. Number two, you're good at what you do, or reasonably good at what you do. And number three, they want a price. Now, I'll add a fourth thing is they want to be treated with some dignity and respect, which, you get sales gangster outfits out there go into house. I've heard, we've all heard the horror stories. So a virtual appointment, then, we're saving gas. When you watch TV, and here's a question for any of your listeners. Hey, when you watch television, are you distracted doing five other things, or are you glued to it? It's why when I have company over, I'll never turn the television set on. Because what happens is it's a conversation killer. Everybody just gets glued to the screen. In a virtual appointment, you're the screen. You are the entertainment. You are their sole focus because there's a screen that they're looking into. And it's almost like we're conditioned to do it. So they're not strained. They're just focusing on what you do. Now, you got to have a good presentation. You can't sit there and just bore them for, however long your presentation takes. Thirdly, people are more at ease because they're in their home. I mean, there's people sitting there with a glass of wine. Like, I don't know anybody who says at the end of a working day, oh, honey, we got a siding salesman coming over here. Hey, come on. They'd rather go to the dentist than put up with that. So now there's a more relaxed atmosphere. So they're more relaxed. They're more accepting of it. They are paying attention because they're staring at a screen and not you. And that's the basics of it. And the fact that if you have a good presentation that's engaging to the consumer, you're going to blow away all these other guys that are in there, page one, page two. Here's my sample. Oh, let me go out to the car and get this. So there's a part two to that I'll talk about later, and that is having that killer.
So I'll say something too. The other thing that I think I've had the luxury, I've sat on a couple of Mike's virtual sets. I guess another benefit is because it's virtual, he can educate a brand audience as to how he's doing what he's doing. And it's important to point out, Mike's probably selling 100 some odd jobs a year in New Jersey, living in Philadelphia, right? Because he's actually not even having to go to the homeowner's house to be able to do it. But the thing that I thought was most interesting, and I think that thing that captivates the audience, is that all of these projects that Mike is doing, whether it be siding or a deck or anything in between, what most homeowners struggle with is what is it going to look like when I'm done, right? Because you start trying to talk to a layman base that doesn't understand things, and when you try to explain in like your mind's eye as to how it's going to look, I think that's next to impossible. But one of the coolest things I've seen about the virtual sit, Mike, is you're literally showing the homeowner real time what their house could look like, and then making the changes for them as kind of on the fly. And so you talk about engaging. I think it's because you're helping kind of like the imagination kind of run wild, right? You're literally allowing the homeowner to see and realize, we're doing our siding right now, and our contractor mentions, one or two changes, and me and my wife have to go back and talk about it because she can't figure out what he's actually saying. In this situation, that's not the case. Mike, what is the power there?
Show them a deck that's finished, that looks photo quality, where there's a hot tub and a large screen television, and there's plants and there's blooming flowers, uh, and the sun is shining, and it's just this beautiful picture. That's what we're selling. You see, and you can't do that with words. You can't do that, with two guys, sitting across the kitchen table. And what you're hoping for when you're doing that sort of presentation is, first of all, they're seeing their house. It's not a house that's similar. They're seeing their exact house. And what happens is, can I see it in green? What if we change? Could you move that column over? Like, yeah, click of a button. So now you talk about being like, it's nice to have somebody paying attention to you. It's way better to have them involved in what you're doing. They're now a co-partner with you in we're working together in concert to design their home, their biggest investment they've ever made in their life. And now they're in these trusting hands in their home that can move this around. So that's, to me, that's where it all happens.
Pivoting a little bit, Mike, but there's a number of people listening. I mean, I think the idea of pull through has become like a very trendy topic. If you're a manufacturer, if you're a dealer, you got to get down to the end user, which is you. Can you talk a little bit about what drives a contractor's business to make a decision to partner, whether it be with a dealer or with a manufacturer, or what powers your business? What keeps you up at night, or what's something that maybe the industry doesn't understand about the contractor's business that if they did understand, they'd be more successful in selling you?
So manufacturers who seek out and have programs where they can pick, the best they can, pick a viable contractor. Number two, train that contractor, train him in how you want your product installed. Set up certification classes. Now, manufacturers do this, right? The policing of it is not always the greatest, but there are manufacturers who do that much. But now, when you start doing this, you kind of can support that contract. By supporting him means getting them leads. That is the lifeblood of this industry. So if you get a contractor, selling your product, installing it properly, and then helping them get new customers, it's a win-win for everybody. And that's the name of the game. It's all about leads. Leads are everything.
So have you seen manufacturers transition into getting leads and investing in contractors' businesses? Is that a trend, or that's something you see needs to happen, needs to shift?
Well, there are manufacturers who do it, some better than others. What amazes me is some manufacturers who have brand awareness, the infrastructure to do it, and don't, or do it so badly that they just can't. It just boggles my mind.
But staying on that topic, lead generation. So obviously the hope is the manufacturers provide leads and some others provide leads. Can you tell us a little bit about how you think about lead generation? How are you getting those people to show up or call you or email you, however they do talk to you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm all about the inbound lead. I'm not reaching out to anybody. I think home shows are just, I'd rather go skydiving without a chute, than do another home show. Um, I'm interested in talking to people who want a product that I sell and have the ability to pay for it. Right? So that's all I'm interested in. So how do we do that? What I would always tell a contractor is know your market.
Mike, I want to challenge a premise for a second. I don't want to water down the importance of leads because I'm going to agree that's a highly important thing. The question is, what is more important as a contractor? Getting the lead or being able to discuss why you're different in a compelling enough way to get the sale? And the reason I ask is that if you're a contractor, you can go on Angie's List and you can generate a lead that's decent. You could get a lead from a manufacturer, and it's unlikely that they're just sending it to you. It might be the case, but it's terribly
Mhm.
likely. What is more powerful as a contractor? If there's a manufacturer listening to you, what do you think is more powerful? Them helping you show why you're better or different, or giving you the lead and letting laissez-faire take place?
Hmm. Well, that's a real Sophie's choice, Todd,
I'm
because
just wondering where you knowing they're both important. Just
they're
prioritize.
both important. Here's where I would prioritize it. So here's going to be the old salesman coming out in me. I prioritize it. The lead's more important. I'll tell you why. Because the lead in my hand, you know what that guarantees me? I'm up at bat. I got a shot at the plate. I get to swing at some pitches. Simple as that. The rest is up to me. Where if I'm relying on the other, well, maybe I don't, maybe I don't see any pitches. I don't get to bat.
Have you been able to quantify how much you pay for leads?
What I'll tell you is this: is leads fluctuate in cost, and it's pretty simple, and that is the higher end leads are the more defined and the higher end the lead becomes, the more expensive you're going to pay for it. However, like for instance, if you look at a roofing lead compared to a sunroom, right? A roofing lead you could generate, I don't want to say cheaply, but in much more abundance. A sunroom lead is going to take you a lot more effort and a lot more money to generate that lead. However, the average sale of a roof compared to the average sale of a sunroom is going to offset those costs. So they do become relative.
What's one thing the industry doesn't understand about your business that you wish that they did?
I think that they truly don't understand the value of a lead. I believe that they don't understand the word and concept of a partnership, what a true partnership really is. Um, the manufacturers that I see running successful programs, there's a makeup to their DNA, which is similar. And that is, it's all about people. It's about people implementing these. Having a program is one thing. Having people implement it is another. So if a manufacturer has a good team implementing a program, what that program should be is a manufacturer really caring about their contractor. Imagine that. A manufacturer who has a vested interest. He's got some skin in the game here, right? He's got a vested interest. He wants that contractor to be successful. And the way the dynamic has been set up over the years is a lot of manufacturers, especially as you kind of climb that chain up to the C-level people, at the risk of offending some people, I'll say they think that's beneath them. Why should they do that?
Can you talk to us? What are the biggest missteps you've made over the course of your career and kind of help us understand like what you maybe would have done differently if you could have rebuilt this thing?
I would have not hesitated about making a leap into technology, number one. Uh, number two is it goes back to knowing your market. Let's just, for the sake of time, let's say they have a home value of 700,000 plus. Well, I have a 33% chance of being successful there. Where if I took look at a home value of 400,000, I could be successful, but my success rate is 10%, not 33%. Now, I wish I knew that early on of saying, well, here's who buys my product, so here's where I should concentrate, right? What do they say? 20%, 80% of the fish live in 20% of the lake. Let's fish that part of the lake instead of spending so much time. Yeah, is there fish in the other one? Yeah, you get lucky every once in a while, but you know,
I
I
think
don't look like I don't like luck or hope as a strategy.
think it's good advice. We hear that from a lot of people in the sense of I was too general when I started. I wish I would have been a little more specific. And if I was more specific, I could have been more focused on what I really wanted. Does that resonate?
Absolutely, because you don't know. I mean, quite honestly, when we knew we were going to be in the siding business, we knew how to install it. But what siding were we going to sell, and how are we going to be a differentiator? Because there's a zillion guys out there selling siding, right? So we decided, oh, we're going to sell this particular type of siding, this particular brand of siding. It had market awareness, it had brand awareness. It was quote unquote, for a higher end user. So, but it took us better part of about a year and a half, almost 2 years, to come to that. Which if I knew that day one, it would have been a lot help.
So, Mike, uh, if we're thinking about your comments from today, the adoption of technology was probably what the first thing you said, and it's been remained thematic throughout. Do you want to talk a little bit? So you're someone that not only said I like technology, you're someone that created one. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've created and what makes it special?
Yes, thank you. So Horatio and I, early on with K&B, I sort of saw the trend moving towards a virtual type of an appointment. But I also saw ways of, like, I'm not, first of all, I am not a programmer. I don't know code. I don't know any of that stuff. But I'm not afraid of technology. So I guess in some ways I'm kind of a geek. I like gadgets. I like things like that. And I like to learn how to use them. So what I started seeing is, well, I could use some off the shelf kind of programs to make my job simpler. And then I started seeing, well, what if, one thing led to another? There's this domino effect. Well, what if I had something that could help me estimate? Well, what if that estimation made it so that it imported measurements so that I could just click a button and make a quote like that? And then, well, what if I had a presentation in there? Well, and what if I had a design? Like, so I took all these elements of what I thought it took to make a presentation. And I basically, we came to the conclusion of, well, what if we had, to let you know, at one point to do this, in the early prototypes of this, was I had 9 softwares going. I had like 9 tabs running to do this, kind of like I was spinning plates to do this magic act. And it was like, well, what if somebody just built the software that does all these things in, business in a box? And I just got lucky enough to find someone who thought it was a good idea too, and said, look, you need a development team, and I think it's a good idea. And they developed it.
Yeah.
And that's One Click Contractor. That basically what it was a business in a box idea to have everything a contractor needs, whether you're selling bathrooms or gutters.
That's great.
That you can do in one platform.
Does have a life of its own now, where someone else is running it and growing it, or you're
Oh, I've never had it. No, it's One Click Contractor is we have let's see, Lowe's adopted it in every, let's see, 1,800 locations in North America. GAF private labeled it. We have now over 10,000 contractors. We have numerous manufacturers that we have, kind of channel deals with. But it's a big landscape, the remodeling industry.
That's very cool that you were able to transition, a contracting business into a spin out, if you will, a technology piece of it. That's not everyone is able to do that, nor has the mind to think and take the jump like that. So congrats
Well,
on that.
we got really lucky. We were really, really fortunate and making some strategic partners. And a lot of it's about networking. I'm here today because I met Todd 10 or so years ago, and I can't tell you. Look, when you find quality people, you want to stick around them. You want to be around them. You want to be in their orbit or stay in their orbit because things happen. You know, um, it's another thing I would tell people: make good partnerships with good quality people, because it's the money will. If you do that, the money is going to find you.
We like to finish our show with a couple clips, or segments, if you will. So the first one saw it coming, and that's about the future. What do you see as the biggest trend or shift in the exterior remodeling industry over the next 5 years?
It's like I guess the trend that's happening everywhere else is that big companies are buying up little companies, um, and there's I see that people are using manufacturers now are going into different technologies to make products, right? So the typical products like wood and just vinyl, like if it like say with vinyl right now, uh, you have fiber cement, you have engineered wood, you have real wood, but now you're starting to see vinyl uh, having to compete with this, right? So now vinyl's, starting to use different composites inside the vinyl. They're using fiberglass, using different polymers to be more rigid. So they see the trend moving into a sturdier, more, um, we're just a sturdier product that has a better lifespan and has more of an aesthetic quality as opposed to just plain old vinyl where you just wrap a house in.
Mike, we're going to go to a couple of rapid fire questions for you real quickly. Best piece of business advice you've received so far in your career?
Best piece of business advice. You know, just be honest. Be honest. You don't have to overinflate anything to sell it. If you have a good product, and you believe in the people around you to do it, just
That's a good one.
be true.
One tool you can't live without on the job site.
One click contract.
Yeah, softball.
Yeah,
Threw him a
I get that
lob
right
there. All right, very good.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, if you weren't in construction, what would you be doing?
I would be in, I'd be a musician. I am a musician, but I just never could make enough money at it to do it. So I wound up selling windows.
Lastly, we got material moments as a personal story. Can you share a personal story about a challenging or transformative moment in your career that really shaped the way you do business now?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great question. Okay, so this is going to be on a personal level. I'll try to get this out quickly. So when I got into business, I learned this business from three brothers, and they were used car salesmen, right? So these guys were the personification of tin men. They knew every trick in the book. And when I was a young kid in my 20s, I adored them. I thought this is like, I hung on every word that they said. And I learned it and wound up like I said before, I started my own business. After a while, I was like, well, I'm making these guys enough money. I'll go do this on my own. So I took all the things I learned and I brought them into my business. And I did well. I did okay. But there was something not right inside. I knew in my heart of hearts, if you look in the mirror and you believe the lie that you're telling people, well, then you should go into politics or get religion, right? I knew that what I was doing out there wasn't 100% truthful. So I had to find a way because I only knew one way to sell. And that was, creating this basically showing a 500-hour window that I made you believe was worth $1,000. And I hyped that up to you. But tonight, and tonight only, you can get it for $350. So it was this, series of, getting people motivated to buy by lowering price and coming up with literally fictitious reasons. That's what they were. Fictitious reasons to lower it to justify a price drop. So my aha moment was, what if you just laid out one single price and you didn't do any price drops? Like, that was terrifying to me. I was like, well, how do I sell? I need to have like the buy three, get one free drop, or the commercial drop, or I need to have like the advertising. If you give me a launch, I need to have all this stuff. It's all BS. You don't need any. You know what you need? Just the truth, just the facts. If you got it, if it's there, and you present it in a way that's compelling and honest and truthful, guess what? People are going to buy.
But how did you come to that? Was that on your own, or did someone help you get there?
I learned how to do something without having to make up stories and make up fictitious price drops for people I learned how to do it not to entice people to buy, but to get people to want to buy from me, not to trick them or entice them. Listen, it's not a difficult thing to do to appeal to someone's innate cupidity, right? By showing them that, if they can believe that, what's the old expression? When value exceeds price, people buy, by overinflating a value of something. And then showing them that, because of a certain set of circumstances that just tonight, I can get you a deal, right? And I think today's generation, especially millennials, oh my gosh, I've never seen a generation of people who crave and thrive on authenticity. I always say that they'll buy vinyl records, right? Because they're authentic, right? Vinyl records sell more now than they have since 1980 was the year that CDs outsold vinyl. And then that never happened again. Well, now vinyl's outselling CDs. So it's come full circle, because there's still, if you like music, there is something to be said about vinyl. But they'll buy vinyl records, but they won't buy vinyl siding. Right? They want, they want authentic. They want real wood or fiber cement or things like that.
That's a good story. I mean, what I take away from your story is that the way you do things now isn't the way it has to be, right? And there's always different ways to do things, and maybe better ways, right? If only you look inside and learn from it. So that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, thank you. Again, thanks for having me, Todd. I really appreciate you asking me to be on here. And Mikey, it was it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a good conversation. Thanks for joining us on Stockton Delivered. And we will talk to you soon.
Appreciate you, Mike.
All right, guys.
So, Mike, thanks for joining. And Mikey, we learned some pretty cool stuff today, I think. The question of what's more important, being different as a contractor or generating a lead, I thought was an interesting conversation. The idea of the virtual sit, I really thought was a pretty intriguing idea. If I had a guess as to where the trends are going, I would definitely say that's a direction the industry is certainly heading. And I'm excited for next week because next week we have Gary Hartman. Gary is the VP of Everlast. And so if you think about this, we went all the way down the value chain, and we're going to head right back up and talk to someone about strategy and go to market and bring what has been a really hot market, a really hot product to market, and kind of what that takes.
Yeah, I really liked today on his take on consolidation, saying how the industry has changed. So yeah, looking forward to next week with Gary, and appreciate everyone who listened today. Thanks again.